Okay, serious question. If I asked you what the main bad guy's powers were in this movie, would you be able to tell me? Like, specific powers?
You mean before or after he turned into electricity that can take over human bodies?
Like, before, like, when he was just a regular guy killing people? Or,
Yeah.
like, because I feel like his powers, like, just seemingly evolve.
I mean, when you have the power of black magic, it's easy to make yourself stronger and change the way that you interact with the world.
Is that what you're chalking this up to? Black magic?
Yeah.
What is giving you that idea?
The voodoo ritual that he does that gives him his powers in his cell.
Him trying to get himself off by fucking grabbing electrodes while
he was doing a black magic ceremony. They even suggest that in his warehouse or whatever, he's been doing a lot of black magic.
Did they ever literally utter the phrase black magic?
Yes,
absolutely.
Are you sure? Yeah, I'm positive.
Oh, fuck, man. This might be the fastest I've ever been wrong in one of these episodes. I did not take it that way at all, but I think you will agree there's a lot about this movie that's up to interpretation.
There's a lot of interesting questions
that's exactly
we're all left with while watching, for sure.
And we're going to try and answer them for you. Welcome to Bad Movies and Beer. I'm Cooper.
And I'm Nolan.
And today we are discussing Wes Craven's Shocker. Not the sexual move he used to do to ladies, but rather a movie called Shocker.
That Wes Craven likes to do to ladies? Is that what you say?
R.I.P. It's usually known for in Hollywood circles. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, man, this is I thought it was early 90s. It's actually very late age, 89. Horror comedy, maybe?
It was listed as horror comedy, but it definitely has more horror notes than comedy notes. It gets a little silly at the end. There's moments near the end where they try to insert comedy, and it's actually the part of the movie that I like least.
Same.
So we'll get into talking about that as we go through.
Oh, man, we're going to cover all the weird fucking shit in this movie. It's so strange. But before we do, as always, we have paired the movie up with a beer. I got to say, I think this is a very strong combination here. What are we drinking today?
Yeah, this one is a lock for connection between beer and movie. This is called The Generator. Of course, we're watching The Shocker, all about creating electricity.
Just Shocker, not The Shocker.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Shocker.
I feel the need to clarify that.
That's fair, that's fair. And the brewery of this, also super strong connection. It's from the Powerhouse Brewing Company out of London, Ontario. This place is in what used to be the, turbine center of the Kellogg's cereal factory in London.
It was literally the powerhouse for the factory.
The place that all of the electricity was created. So it works perfectly for this. In late 2000, I think it was 2017, they took over the space, took out all the old turbines and put in all the brewing equipment, and they've been making beer there since then. I have never had any of their beers. It sounds like they have a really cool space, though, and they've got a wide range of stuff. I'm looking forward to trying this. You've had a couple, though.
I haven't. I've also been to the space. The space is super cool. It's kind of tucked around a corner. It was a little hard to find when I was there, but as soon as you walk in, really cool room. They got a giant kind of at the time I was there, it was winter, so there was a glassed in kind of patio that I assume opens up when they get to summertime. But yeah, pretty deep bench of beers here, a lot of different styles. Anything you're looking for, they'll have something that can appeal to you. So this one maybe that won't appeal to me because it is an IPA. You didn't mention that.
The Generator is their flagship IPA. I'm thinking because on their website I noticed that they also had some listed as hazy IPA. So this is going to be kind of a traditional IPA. That balance with sort of strong hop flavors at the end, probably more of a West Coasty style. So maybe it'll be maltier.
That's the one I like better, right? I was going to say.
You tend to like this style better. So this may have something for you here. We're going to find out, I guess, at the end.
Let's do it.
Let's crack it open.
Absolutely. Ooh. So after the Universal Pictures logo, we get an era-appropriate theme song and an opening credit sequence telling us that Alive Pictures presents Wes Craven's Shocker. These credits take place as we cut back and forth between fuzzy black and white television images and shots of some guy with a severe limp, shuffling up to a table with various wires, transistors, and other electronic devices, and starting to solder things menacingly. He also sharpens a knife for emphasis as the sequence ends with a news report talking about another in a string of grisly murders that's affected a Los Angeles suburb. Probably unrelated, though, right? I don't have to do this guy.
Well, I think definitely it does based on him wiping the blood off of that knife he was using to fix the television there.
Yeah.
I like this intro. Wes Craven has done a good job here setting up sort of an interesting setup, and I think the transition of a like TVs and news story to the next day is an effective one.
Yeah, there's craft here for sure. The editing is strong in this sequence, and in a sequence we'll see later that I don't want to get to just yet, but you're right. As the credits wrap up, we pull back from the TV showing the news report to discover that we're now outside the local college, where football star Jonathan, played by a surprisingly age-appropriate Peter Berg, is headed to practice. He makes a nice catch and run, but gets distracted by his girlfriend Allison in the stands and ends up getting absolutely destroyed just short of a touchdown. Now we get a nice variation on the angry black police chief here in the form of his angry black football coach, who reams him out while also working in some totally organic character development.
You know, you could be one for the record books, Jonathan. You come up the hard way, you got great talent, but I don't know if you got greatness.
Nailed it. That was seamless. Yeah.
Oh man, you say that it is the way they work in the angry black.
Yeah, man, it's exactly like the police chief. He's the guy being like.
But this is every coach in all of these movies too, right? Like he hits it on the nose here. It's good. It's funny though because clearly he keeps getting distracted by his girlfriend or by the ladies. He's basically saying that he's too worried about pussy and he needs to get focused.
He's been off his training. What have you been doing at night? Sneaking out?
Yeah. So I don't know. So we're gonna see whether he can pick it up. They're gonna go for one more play here though to see if he can get his head in the game. This goes pretty well for him as he does catch a touchdown, but he decides instead of like finishing it with class, he's going to taunt the other player, Rhino, one of his buddies who's a strong defender. As he does the taunting, he goes slamming headfirst into the goalpost itself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely rings his own bell.
Oh, my gosh.
And he claims right before this happens that he hasn't been getting much sleep lately, but that's not going to help here as he absolutely fucking knocks himself silly to the point where the coach decides he shouldn't return to practice. But then, and this really speaks to the era this movie was made in, they just let him wander off the field even though he is showing all the signs of a massive concussion. Dude can't even walk in a straight line. He ends up falling into a table of cups.
Yeah, the guy does tell him, like one of the assistant coaches, who I think is a doctor, mentions he might have a mild concussion.
Oh my God.
At least they bring up the concussion word. I don't know. But yeah, he walks and crashes into the Gatorade table, tipping everything over. What seems like kind of an insertion of comedy here that I don't know if it's necessary, but definitely showing that he's having trouble. It's interesting because after this moment, after he rings his bell super hard, he almost starts having a little bit of visions, or we're going to get into one. And I was struggling to understand as a viewer whether the concussion or him hitting his head started these, or is this something he was having before?
Well, that was your theory, and I had not considered that. And I think, like, for me, I thought he was just, well, again, we'll learn more about these visions he's having and who they're related to in a second. But the fact that he mentions not getting a lot of sleep lately, I took that as like he was already having that. But like many things in this movie, it will go thoroughly unexplained.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mentioned not getting a lot of sleep a second ago. That night, he wakes up in a cold sweat after a very realistic dream about his foster mother and siblings getting murdered by a deranged TV repairman with an unmistakable limp. Jonathan is like in the dream with them and wakes up after diving through the serial killer mere moments before his real life phone rings with terrible, unfathomable news. His foster mother and siblings did get murdered, and wouldn't you know it, it happened the exact same way Jonathan dreamed it did. So this should be a slam dunk for the police. They just have to look for a TV repairman with a limp who massively overacts in every scene he's in.
I actually kind of like the performance of the villain guy.
Whoa, hang on. But it's like so over the top, though. It is campy to a ridiculous degree.
He pushes it pretty hard. He is going all in on being just completely diabolical and
sweaty and twitchy and
all the laughter and everything. What's interesting to me is he has this vision and it seems too real. His stepdad or foster dad calls him to give him the bad news. His foster dad happens to be the town's head detective or lieutenant. Lieutenant Parker, I think, is his name.
I don't know. I think his first name's Don.
Yeah, Don Parker, I think. And I'm kind of shocked by both the dad, the Lieutenant Parker, Don, and John's reaction to this murder. Both of them look somber, but neither of them are inconsolable. They're almost both trying to solve the crime rather than you process it emotionally.
Yeah, if I was Jonathan and I had literally seen how this played out right before it happened in a dream, I might be a little more rattled just by that. Oh my God, what does this mean? What have I, whatever. The detective, he's kind of a hard-nosed guy. He's used to that, but it is his own family.
Yeah, he's seen crime and murder before, but when it's your own family, you think you might step away. I think protocol would suggest someone else would take over that case.
Yeah, he's the only detective in the whole fucking city. Okay, now here's my question. Did his family get murdered because he's working the case? Is he getting too close and the killer like knows and found out where he lives? Or is this literally just a coincidence? Again, not explained, in my opinion.
No, and I actually think, I did a little bit of Googling just before watching to see when it was and what this was about. And one of the descriptions is actually that the murderer goes after the detective's family on purpose to stop him from solving the crime. But that is not clear at all in the movie.
Never says it.
It feels like that was
someone else.
Someone's interpretation. Yeah, someone filled in those gaps. Or maybe that was something they gave the media early in their description and then it didn't turn out to be that.
Yeah.
The other thing I read was there was a lot of cuts. Like this thing was edited extensively.
Probably to get a safer rating, I'm guessing.
Yeah, they kept getting a like NC-17
X or whatever.
or X rating, and they had to cut it 13 times. So I'm wondering,
that's a lot.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much got lost in translation with those cuts. But
could be. You never know if it's the editing or the screenplay
so
or what. But
we've got these two people. Their whole family has been murdered, and now the son is going to have to tell his dad, the hard-nosed detective, that he saw it all happen in a dream. This is going to go really well.
Yeah, Detective Don is understandably skeptical, but that does not stop him from ordering a couple of officers to break into the extremely sketchy TV repair shop that Jonathan leads them to, using a classic workaround to shut down their objections.
Break it. Now, wait a minute. You don't have a warrant? This is breaking and entering. You know that.
This place has already been broken into. We're investigating an apparent burglary here.
Right. You're right.
Fuck yeah, man. He's going to bring this guy in by any means necessary. That's good policing right there.
Yeah, it doesn't care about the rules here. He's going to
trust. You're on board with this. This is more the style of policing that I enjoy.
He's going to trust his son's dream or sort of feelings about this here. His son is also insistent that the killer is there. How he knows that, I'm not sure.
He can sense him.
I know.
Because of the concussion.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
No, I don't think
the
so.
The concussion gave him like extra sensory abilities.
I think he already had
here
it.
we go.
I don't know, man.
Well, we do find out that they have a closer connection than we understood before. And maybe
possibly.
That's
I don't know if that's true either.
Well, okay,
we'll find out later. I don't
know.
know.
Talk about it.
Anyway, it turns out this TV repair shop is also a labyrinthine house of horrors, as Horace Pinker, that's our killer, quickly picks off the guy who objected to going in by pulling him through a revolving shelf and slitting his throat. Irony? Anyway, Detective Don finds this guy's blood flowing out from behind the shelf and frantically tells a young officer to go call for backup. But the killer is already on the move, having slipped out a side door and murdered two other officers standing guard before we can find out what happens to the young guy. Spoiler alert, he is dead as hell and the killer is in the wind. So that went well.
Well, I guess the good thing is they did find the killer. Bad thing, there are 4 more cops down. There's also a back room filled with black magic, as they talk about.
There's weird shit in the back room, but I do not recall the phrase black magic. They're walking through it like silently stunned. What the fuck is this? All these TVs all over the place and like dead cats?
There was like a severed arm on there too.
Was it real? I kind of thought it was like a mannequin arm.
I don't know. There was some weird shit going on for sure.
It's a creepy room.
The makeup on the final kill of the young cop is kind of entertaining. Like he has that shock face on him and he's stuck on the hood of the car there.
That's why they called this Shocker.
Actually, that's one of my bigger complaints.
That's funny. Shocked him to death. So you may be asking yourself, if you're Jonathan, you not only blew your chance to catch the guy who murdered your foster family, but now that killer has seen what you look like, and thanks to some ongoing local news reports, will have absolutely no trouble finding out your name and address. What do you do next? Well, as we transition to a slow pan across Jonathan's bedroom and get some audible grunting sounds, my first thought was that he's laying pipe. But then we see Allison through an open doorway taking a bath by herself. So, whacking off? The real answer is far less exciting.
He's working out.
He's doing
swole.
some pull-ups.
Yeah, he's getting strong. He's trying to get his energy out, and the only way he knows how, because did we find out before or after this that they hadn't had sex yet? I don't know. They make it very clear.
She mentions it when he's concussed, but I'm not sure that's true either, because then they wake up in bed together.
No, but she's fully clothed. She just stayed with him because of the concussion.
You can put clothes on after you, or you can keep clothes on while you have sex.
Was concussed.
Stop thinking so two-dimensional.
No, she's still chaste. That's why she has those magical powers as a ghost.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here. But yes, that is possible. So no, he's exercising. He's late for practice again. But Before he heads out, he still makes a point of giving Allison her birthday present. Not the one I thought he was giving her a minute ago, but a gold necklace with a heart pendant. She can't believe that with everything going on, he would even think to do that. And I can't believe that he fucking gets in his car and drives away despite having a clear, unshakable feeling that something terrible is about to happen. So she gets brutally murdered, but at least he didn't let the coach down by missing practice.
Yeah.
He pauses for like 10 minutes in that driveway, and he's like, probably nothing. Like, what?
Oh my God. And the massacre in this bathroom we get when he returns is just like blood everywhere. And unfortunately, Allison, his girlfriend, murdered and in the tub. We even get a message scrawled across the mirror in the bathroom from Pinker, the murderer, to him. It says, "Happy birthday, Horace Pinker." He even says who it is.
He signs it.
We transition to some sad funeral scenes.
Of course, yeah. After what happened here, Jonathan's understandably devastated. And his foster dad, Detective Don, seemingly not listening to him anymore, maybe because all his shit sounds crazy. So he decides to take matters into his own hands. After first enlisting his frenemy from the football team Rhino to wake him up if things get too dangerous, Jonathan enters a dream to confront Pinker and learn the location of his next murder. So apparently, in addition to his football offense, Jonathan's also been studying the Nightmare on Elm Street playbook. Wes Craven's not afraid to run it back, eh?
That's true. Wow, I didn't make that connection.
Are you
I don't
serious?
understand how I
He's
didn't do
in the
that.
dream so much. It's exactly
absolutely.
like
That makes complete sense to me now. I didn't even make that connection. It's been so long since I've watched any of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. But
this could easily have been Nightmare on Elm Street, like 6 or 7 or whatever the fuck. Pinker even looks a little bit. He's got like the bald head and he's a little bit
And
craggly.
as things happen a little bit later, he gets a bit scarred up. You're right. So he does use the dream here to get information on where Pinker is. He gets Rhino to wake him up right at the right time, and they peel off to go confront the killer, who was waiting, though, to see where they would go.
Well, I was going to say, after he gets his address and they head out, we see several police cars emerge from around the corner and start following them. So the good news is his foster dad believed him after all, I guess. But the bad news is these cops aren't going to let 2 civilians anywhere near this killer, even if they are local football stars. In fact, Detective Don leaves a guard outside the building with strict instructions not to let Jonathan and Rhino through. So that's the end of that, right? Even if they could somehow get past this guy, by the time they did, the cops would have definitely already captured the killer.
There's a lot of setup in here. Immediately, Rhino, Jonathan's friend, tackles the one cop who's guarding them, and they
3 seconds.
They are in
Right
the building. Jonathan immediately busts in and catches up to the police and is ready to go. The killer didn't seem too upset by the police showing up, but he's kind of agitated when he sees Jonathan there.
Yeah, because he also, I guess, was a part of this dream. He witnessed it and retained the memory. And we should note, this is playing out exactly like the dream Jonathan had, so it's all kind of happening here. Horace Pinker has a knife to whoever this lady's throat is, and he's threatening to kill her. And I like how his big move here is to taunt the cops by saying,
"Hey, this boy's hungry down there. Huh? You hungry? Well, eat this."
before kind of lazily throwing the woman down the stairs. The cops are like 6 feet away from him. She hits like 2 steps and they've got her. This is like the least effective distraction ever.
Yeah. You would have thought, based on the actions of this person before, he would have probably slit her throat before shoving her down there, at least to make a bigger mess or problem for them before they go. Thankfully for this lady, he doesn't. But Jonathan, using his football skills, hurdles over this falling lady up those stairs and is on a chase after this killer. It heads up into the rooftop, but our killer escapes across a ladder between 2 buildings and then shoves it off of the rooftop before Jonathan can get there. That means that he's escaped, right? He's on his own.
Well, I was going to say, clearly Horace Pinker has not been watching any local college football game film, because Jonathan revs up and action hero jumps from one building to the other, which launches us into a totally realistic fight scene.
My favorite part of this fight scene, is
it the ventilation cap? Me too.
So they punch each other a bunch and a knife comes out, gets knocked away, and there's some fighting over that. They're thrown into sort of some metal and glass stuff. But there's one of those spinning ventilation caps, the ones that they turn slowly
when the air comes out.
When the air comes out.
Yeah.
They set it up to be like a really menacing, I'm going to shave your face off kind of moment when Jonathan's in a headlock and his face is going towards it. And I just laughed my ass off. I was like, that's just going to stop when it hits him in the face. It's not even going to continue spinning. It was pretty funny. But
no, this was like a fucking cartoon.
Yeah.
But not as cartoony as what happens after the cops arrest Horace Pinker and he's sentenced to death. A priest comes to deliver his last rites only to find that Horace Pinker has like pulled the wires out of the TV in his cell and is essentially giving himself an electric chair appetizer. And all I could think of was, fuck, how horny is this guy for electricity?
The answer is very horny.
Very, yeah.
Very, very horny. They are prepping the execution, and like you said, they mention he's having his last meal, and we transition there, and he's got these candles on the floor, all these symbols, and he has somehow got jumper cables attached to a television. When he puts them against himself, the TV almost shoots out like an image that becomes a part of his body, almost like he becomes possessed by the TV.
It kind of like reaches out to him almost, or the thing there?
Yeah, and this felt very Ghostbustery to me.
Sorry, Ghostbusters or Ghost with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore? Because this seemed very sexual to me, and I was like...
They're actually, later in the movie, when we have the Allison character come back as Ghost, there's a little bit. I was like, this is just them running Ghost back. I felt a lot of, like, they were just taking inspiration from a lot of movies that ended up having things related to ghosts and poltergeists. Like,
Ghost might have come out
TVs
after this.
Too.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We should look that up. But
I don't know the
Ghostbusters for sure is
timing on
before
it.
it. Yeah, Ghost might have been afterwards.
Yeah, so it was sort of funny. But
Yeah.
I'm getting those feelings. Even after electrocuting himself and absorbing whatever came out of this tube TV that he'd set up in his, like, black magic ritual, he looks like he might be dead. So the guards decide to give him some CPR because they don't want to get in shit. He can't die before the electric chair.
He can't die before he's supposed to.
Yeah.
That's the,
They're like, I can't lose my job for this. So the one guy goes to give him mouth to mouth.
Ooh.
And it does not go well for him. He gets like his lip and chin kind of bit off. Like it's looking real gruesome here.
You're underselling this. This is very graphic. And he does. Like the guard pulls up and the lip is still in the guy's mouth and it's like stretching. And oh, fuck. That was...
the other guard...
I shivered.
The other guard goes to interfere or to stop this and he gets 3 of his fingers bit off. So... things are not good for the guards. And here's where we get that really overacting, I think you were suggesting, right? Like he is laying really thick into this evil character here.
When he says like finger licking good after he bites the guard.
Yeah,
he's a little manic.
Yeah, but it stays consistent. Like the whole time.
It stays consistent.
It's like it doesn't diverge from that. There's not a lot of subtlety to what's happening, but I like that they're going all out on this like metal evil bad guy. I don't know.
I think the music is a good accompaniment to this because it kind of matches the pace of what we're seeing.
Yes, it's very frenetic.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, yes. But after this happens, he eventually does get subdued enough when more guards arrive. They can actually get him into the electric chair. As we're going to see, though, somehow the actual execution goes even worse.
It's incredible, right? So they ask him for his like last words.
Yeah, man.
And he goes on a diatribe and goes to attack Jonathan and his family in terms of throwing and spitting out some hot fire truths that Jonathan was not aware of.
Okay, so I have this also here, but do you believe that what he says is true?
I do.
I kind of do too. But when you look at the respective ages, I'm not sure he's old enough for this to be true. We should probably say what it is. So basically, he gets a chance to say his last words, and he uses his last words to deliver a twist that is absolutely shocking, pun intended.
Your pitiful little memories wiped it all out, hasn't it? I used to beat you good, boy. I was beating you real good when your mama tried to stop me with that gun that she brought into our happy home. And how clever you were, grabbing that gun and shooting me right through the fucking knee, you little peckerhead! Like father, like son, huh?
So Pinker is Jonathan's father, maybe? Not only is Wes Craven running back his own shit, he's also giving us a poor man's Darth Vader. Right?
He is.
Yeah.
He is. You're absolutely right. This is very much John, I am your father. So in his last rites, he says that. I do believe it. That limp that he has caused by the shot to the knee, right?
That part tracks,
which sort of gives that truth.
Foster dad tells him later that it's not true, though.
He lies to him. He doesn't want him to believe that, right? I think the
it
cop
would
lies
explain
to
their
him.
connection if you don't buy the whole concussion gave him magical powers thing.
Well, I think that's what started it. It
brought reestablished the connection between horrible father and son?
Yeah, it brought it out. I don't know. It
Jesus.
was lost in his mind, and it got shook back into place when he hit his head on that
Hot
pole.
take, is all of this movie a dream after the concussion?
Wow, it could be.
He knocks him to the loopy and this is all in his head.
Yeah.
And really, he's like in a fucking bed somewhere or like a sanitarium. And he's dreamed all of this.
Is that better or worse?
Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know.
So Pinker tells him this stuff. Jonathan is obviously shook. And they're like, it's time to light him up. So the warden tells the executioner to throw down the switch, and he does. We see some electricity go in. Things get really dark, like lights turn off and things kind of aren't going well.
Oh, that's putting it mildly, man. I think the power goes out or something. They fry Pinker, but like only halfway. And then, yeah, everything just dies. The doctor who goes in to check on him gets a jolt of electricity herself when the chair suddenly turns back on, I guess. Like, it's not totally clear what's happening.
I think it comes out of Pinker. I think whatever Pinker did in his cell earlier allows him to absorb that electricity.
But she touches not him, but the metal, like, a wristband, which
I
you also probably shouldn't touch.
Yeah,
it.
She shouldn't have been touching that. I thought it was, I thought it when she touched him, it sort of shorted out.
Yeah.
But he electrocutes her, or the chair electrocutes her.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing fucking explodes in electricity. The generator, just like our beer here, goes off and explodes.
There you go.
The guy who was like doing the execution gets taken out, and all the other guards in the room and around it kind of get shocked.
Smoke everywhere.
Pinker disappears.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's not totally clear what exactly causes or what's happening, but what is totally clear once the smoke in the chamber dissipates is that Horace Pinker is no longer in the electric chair. Now, this is all just set up to give us a jump scare when Jonathan opens a door and Pinker's dead body falls out. And just for fun, Wes Craven has it burst into flames and dissolve on the ground. That's a short movie, huh? 46 minutes?
Well, it's interesting because knowing this movie was about a like electrical serial killer, I actually thought 45 minutes was a long time to get to that.
It took
moment.
so long. I thought the same thing. I'm like, what are we fucking getting? I don't remember this much as being like a police procedural.
Yeah, I actually quite like the first 45 minutes. Like I like the tone and I like the pace and I like the setup of our characters. I think that was good. But I thought it was strange that it took so long to get to what I thought was like a electrical serial killer movie, and that's not
straight
what
ahead
was.
Kind of slasher.
Yeah,
deal. You thought we were right into it. Yeah,
and so we're here though after 45 minutes, and is it over? He's done, right? Like he's spontaneously combusted.
No.
But that's not going to be the case.
No, man. We find out where Pinker's consciousness is gone in a second as two cops are transporting the prison doctor to a hospital when she suddenly turns very violent, reaching up into the passenger seat and breaking one guy's neck.
What the hell are you doing? Just feel like a little head sport.
This
definitely an oral sex reference. We've got a movie about giving a hand pleasure, and we've got some oral sex suggestions.
Yeah, man. This leads to the car crashing and a giant explosion, and all I could think of was how this would never happen in real life. Not the explosion, that was totally realistic, but the cops taking her to the hospital instead of calling an ambulance. Zero chance, man. She was conscious when they pulled her out of the chamber. She's like, take me to the hospital. They would never do that. They'd be like, no, we'll call you an ambulance.
There should have probably been an ambulance on scene already.
Just in case.
Yeah. I'm surprised that wouldn't have been the case. But you're right. So the cops are taking this doc away. She clearly has been possessed by our serial killer. It turns out that whatever ritual he was doing is allowing him to transfer between bodies using electrical forces. But they just all exploded. So everyone's dead and gone. Like, can you transfer when you're toast, whenever all the bodies and corpses around you are disintegrated?
Trick question, because there are no rules with this. I don't know. You mentioned the way that he like jumps. It seems to change as the movie goes along, so I don't know what's fucking happening, but I do know this. Detective Don is trying to deal with this explosion and yet another dead officer on his watch, so he's a little too busy to listen to his foster son when Jonathan tries to tell him that he thinks Pinker is still alive. Jonathan didn't feel anything when Pinker's body fell on him, see? So he's pretty sure his spirit is somewhere else. Now, we know exactly what happened. Pinker's consciousness is now in the body of the other cop they pulled out of that car crash a minute ago, still alive. But his foster dad completely writes this off as crazy, which makes sense because all the other weird supernatural stuff Jonathan was seeing and feeling was all in his imagination, right? Like, I wouldn't believe that guy either.
Yeah, the dad cannot move into this sort of supernatural realm. He's a straightforward cop, right? He doesn't
potatoes.
That.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Despite Jonathan having all that previous knowledge that would have helped them or did help them.
It got them to Pinker, yeah.
I don't know. You're right. You think he would be at least a little bit on board to listen to what Jonathan has to say, but he dismisses him, and so do all the other cops, right? The only people who have Jonathan's back is his football team.
As it turns out. It's a real fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me situation.
Yeah.
But Jonathan will be proven right in about 2 minutes, right after a dream sequence where Allison's wet corpse shows up to confirm his suspicions about Pinker switching bodies. Speaking of weird supernatural stuff, this fucking scene came out of nowhere.
You're right. I was thrown off because he's laying in bed And it's a waterbed, and that was such a throwback. I was like, do people even have those anymore? Like,
I don't know if they still make those.
All kinds of people would probably have no idea what that is. And there was a period of time where I had one growing up.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, I'm so jealous,
Just
man.
like that one. I was like, yeah.
Dude, my friend's hot older sister had one, and I was just like, think of what you could get up to on this thing. You could be a boat captain. That was me at like 8 years old.
Yeah, that's what you wanted. That's what you were thinking at the age of 8. You were like, yeah,
you pretend like you're on a boat. You just go,
but it is interesting. So we're getting more supernatural stuff happening here. The ghost of Allison comes back in the shower to give Jonathan a warning, telling him he needs to do something about this. And is this where she also tells him that her necklace, the love that they had, the one that he gave her the day that she was murdered, is what is going to help him protect?
Fuck, I don't know, man. She comes up in this movie with so many warnings at different times. They've all kind of blurred together for me. But I do know this. Her underwater warning is enough to make him decide to move out. He's packing the next time we see him. But a knock at the door interrupts that process. It's a police officer there to give him a ride to the station. Apparently his foster dad wants to talk to him. Only right before Jonathan's about to open the door, he gets a phone call from Detective Don, which doesn't mention anything about meeting him at the station. What he does mention is that the other officer from the car crash has mysteriously disappeared from the hospital, so cue the action scene.
Oh, this is pretty good. At this time in the movie, too, I'm kind of questioning the title.
Because there hasn't been a lot of, other than the electric chair, there hasn't been a lot of electricity-related stuff.
Yeah. And because this guy is just transferring his consciousness to people, like, why is he called the Shocker? And like,
again, just Shocker.
Shocker. Yeah. Putting the on it brings it so much closer.
You're just making we're trying to make this
action.
Podcast less sexual.
Yeah, is this going to be allowed to go on YouTube? I'm not sure.
I don't know, man. Oh, fuck. Well, listen, they fight for a while, then Jonathan gets out of the house, and I know they have to build tension here, but this chase is ludicrous. Like, apparently anyone whose body Pinker takes over inherits his horrific limp, and Jonathan is a high-level collegiate football star. He would have gotten away from him in like 10 seconds, but instead, after a lengthy foot race, Pinker decides to pull some deception by calling out Jonathan not as himself, but as this cop. I guess the Pinker's pretending that this guy has gotten back control of his body after a heart attack or something, and this works well enough that he's able to get a shot off that wings Jonathan. It's not enough to kill him, though, and this cop body is pretty much toast, so he instead shoots some geeky good Samaritan, then possesses him, before then switching to the body of a little girl. I feel like the pace is really picked up here, but not necessarily in a good way.
Yeah, this whole scene moves quickly and is kind of interesting. You're right that he should have got away better than he did. The police officer that is taken over by our killer must shoot off like 40 rounds and only connects once in his arm, yet in one shot is able to take down that runner, the other guy in the park that he's going to take over his body. Almost
guys like, hey man, you okay? Just no.
And then that kid comes across, and they do build a little suspense because we have Jonathan talk to the little girl while she's on her bike, and we're like, oh shit, she's gonna get taken over too, right?
You know what? I didn't see it coming. I'll be honest. Yeah. I didn't see it coming. Yeah,
I thought that was coming, and she does. So the runner catches up to this little girl, takes over her body, and you know it's him because you see her walking with that limp. I think this was like, the writers of this had a really fun time making the kid role taken over by the serial killer.
Someone's having fun.
She drops some F-bombs. She gets into a front-end loader.
And fuck, dude.
Starts driving it and almost takes out Jonathan with it.
Well, this is what I was going to say, man. Like, I mentioned the pace a minute ago. You know what else is really picked up in this movie? The silliness. Yeah. Like, that girl is in that bulldozer or loader, whatever the fuck it is. I guess the keys are in it for some reason. Yeah. And after exclaiming, "Come on, you fucker, move!" and getting it going, she runs Jonathan down without A, him seeing or hearing it driving towards him, and B, flattening him like a pancake. He basically like rolls off the side of it somehow. It made no sense.
He dodged it. He dodged it with his superior football
touches
skills.
Him. He just like rolls on.
I don't know. He gets out of there. He gets missed by the bucket by inches, but it was close.
It was. This leads to him chasing down that 6-year-old while her mother, you forgot to mention her, is frantically chasing Jonathan down. And after taking a kick directly to the balls from that little girl, Jonathan manages to force Pinker out of her body by holding up the heart necklace that he gave Allison for her birthday. Because I guess it has like magical powers. Yeah. I don't really know.
She suggested that in the dream.
Did she? Okay, so this is what I have here in my notes.
She suggested it.
I'm not sure if I just keep missing key pieces of information or if they've done a really shitty job of explaining stuff.
No, it's you.
You seem quite sure. All right, well, maybe.
No, it isn't clear. A lot of this stuff, it takes a pretty big leap, and you got to believe very little that builds you there. We almost have a little exorcism scene as the murderer's consciousness comes out of the child, but immediately into her mother, who is chasing this whole thing down. She kind of goes after Jonathan, but he drops like a surprisingly good high kick on this lady.
Yes.
He's kind of got martial arts skills too somehow. I don't know why, but kicks her away, and he's going to defeat this lady in a competition because he's much stronger than her. But thankfully for our killer, they also find a big, beefy, construction
worker, man, a burly guy. Yeah, this is the takeaway that we can get from this scene, is that Pinker can apparently exist outside of bodies, at least temporarily. We get these electricity effects and this kind of like staticky ghost image of Pinker superimposed on the frame, and we see him dive into the little girl's mom's body, then into the body of that burly construction worker. Neither of these moves result in Jonathan's death, but Pinker does manage to get the necklace and throw it into the lake, which sets up Jonathan's next move in this ridiculous chess game: swim down to the bottom of the lake and retrieve it. Now, where'd he put that old diving mask?
He knows it's going to be hard to find at the bottom of the lake without some way to see under all of that water. So we have him back at the college. He's getting sewn up by the one doctor or coach, sewing up that bullet wound and telling his coach and his good buddy Rhino what they need to do next. He asks Coach and the doctor guy to go grab the mask for him, and he'll meet them at the water. Here we get a shocking transition from midday to nighttime at the water. It
is a little jarring. Yeah.
I found that a couple times in this movie that the timelines seem
jumps.
Strange. We get some big jumps between where they're going. So conveniently, it's much creepier because they're at night, but for some reason, the coach and the other guy are an hour and a half late.
Yeah, for some reason.
Yeah.
I wonder what that reason could be. Personally, I might have just gone and bought a new mask or something rather than go back to a murder scene. That's just me. But yes, the coach is going to do Jonathan this favor, and it turns out it's the last favor he's ever going to do. And all I could think of here was, for a guy who's supposed to be able to see the killer's moves coming, Jonathan sure is getting surprised by a lot of things these days. What happened to that power?
Maybe he can't go into that dream as often anymore to go figure out where the next move is, or maybe he's afraid to sleep. A little bit of that nightmare
because of
Elm
Freddy.
Street.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Sorry,
yeah.
wrong movie.
Yeah, exactly. We also get a strangely emotional moment here between him and Rhino, where he tells his buddy who's helping him that he needs to leave and he's got to do it all on his own because he can't lose anyone else that he cares for.
Yeah, man, that's exactly what happens. So he goes to his house to see what happened to the coach. We already fucking know. There's blood smeared everywhere again. That's Horace Pinker's move, I guess. And I think once again in the bathroom, I don't know, the shower's running and he pulls the curtain aside and there's the coach. And fuck, man, the acting performance that the guy playing the coach gives in this scene. He's supposed to be showing a grueling internal struggle as he tries to fight off Pinker's control. Allison's Force Ghost even shows up to encourage him like a hot blonde Yoda. But despite this guy's best efforts, we get this.
Jonathan, he's too strong. I can't will him out. I will it to you, Jonathan, to get this bastard. Coach, no!
And just to be clear, I mean despite his best efforts to act.
You're right, the acting is a lot here. The coach is trying his best to show this struggle he's having, but he does sort of overcome and beat Pinker here because he does stab himself in the chest and take away that body, right? So Pinker is left without someone to inhabit. But what does he do? What does Pinker do at this point?
Well, he still tries to lunge towards Jonathan, but we get a quick ghost standoff between him and Allison. She wins, by the way, sending Pinker retreating into the house's electrical system. As a knock at the door heralds the arrival of Jonathan's foster dad, Detective Don, but not before Allison gives Jonathan a key piece of information that we'll learn a little bit later on. Detective Don wants to believe Jonathan. He makes that clear with a quick backstory monologue. But when he discovers what can only be described as a grisly crime scene, he tells Jonathan he's going to have to bring him in. But first, he's just going to turn a lamp off real quick. What's that, you say? He gets shocked and starts acting weird? I don't believe you.
Well, this is after we also see our killer turn his hands into an electrical prong.
Yeah, he figures that outlet.
Ghost. Yeah, he shatters the outlet, and then he
That's why they called it
right?
shocker.
After the ghost fight in which he loses, he decides to go into the electrical system, and then what we're going to find out shortly, transfer himself over to good old foster dad.
There's no reason to turn that lamp off.
I gotta go walk over here and turn this off.
We've been through enough. We don't need a high electrical bill. Let me turn this lamp off.
Yeah.
No. With Pinker now in control of Detective Don's body, he tells the other officers that he'll drive Jonathan to the station himself. Jonathan realizes what's going on, but not until after he's locked in the back of the cop car with theoretically no way out. I say theoretically because his boy Rhino emerges from the shadows to bust through the car window and pull him out to safety. So it's time for yet another silly chase scene as Pinker races after Jonathan, hoping to get close enough to shoot a bunch of bullets all around him without actually hitting him. And he does.
Oh, so many shots are fired in this movie at Jonathan, and the fact that only that one nick on his arm is the one that hits him is absolutely hilarious. I wish they hadn't have shot so many times. I'm also confused. Like, I don't really understand why our killer is chasing Jonathan this hard. If it truly is his son, is he just bitter that he got shot in the knee by him? Like, he didn't like getting the limp? Or
is it because Jonathan can, like, see him and he's, like, the best chance of bringing this guy down? I don't know.
It's like worried his son is going to stop him? Or is he trying to, like... Because it kind of felt at moments he wanted to turn his son into him.
Oh.
But why
just like Darth Vader.
Yeah. But why is he shooting at him then? Like, are all these shots intentionally wide so that he can get him into a moment to have this? Like, clearly I'm overthinking this shit.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I think that is absolutely true. Yeah.
I like where this ends up, though. This chase ends up at a TV station, which I think is appropriate based on our intro and the fact that our killer is a TV repairman. I like that they're staying with that connection. This almost feels like the climax of the movie. Like, I feel like the way that it builds to this moment feels like the movie should be ending in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, man, because Pinker in Detective Don's body corners Jonathan on the roof of some building with nowhere left to go. He has to climb to the top of that, like, radio I guess it's a television transmitter tower.
Transmission.
Yeah. Either way, I'm not sure what Jonathan's plan was here other than to buy himself some time as he's actively trying to get his foster dad to fight Pinker's control. And I guess Detective Don has more willpower than that football coach because he's able to snap out of it long enough to fake a heart attack and also give us some top-notch acting.
Oh, God. Jonathan, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No one's really playing things subtle here, are they?
No.
Not a lot of understated performance in this one.
No, absolutely not. This is full force, all in. I actually like the climb up to the top of this tower as like a battle spot. Why
it's a terrible plan for an escape.
Yeah,
you're
stuck. You're not going. I thought he was trying to lure him up to there to like get him into the electrical outlet. Like maybe he was thinking like if you over electrocute this thing, you can end it or get rid of it. After this very dramatic performance, we do see the father sort of slip down and fall in front of a satellite. And what does our evil character who's possessing the like foster father do here?
Well, I was going to say, Detective Don says he fakes his heart attack as a way to like drive Pinker out of his body. I guess he thought if his body was like going to be toast, Pinker would jump. But I'm not sure if that's why he leaves because he seems pretty happy to be leaving. Telling Jonathan that he's nationwide now is how he phrases it before like riding out on the broadcast signal this tower was putting out. And as we quickly learn, that means nobody is going to be safe, at least not if they're watching TV.
Yeah, he sent himself into America's households through the television set, right? We've got this connection to a TV repairman, evil murderer killer, who can now become electricity that goes into other people and
be broadcast,
travel across, through the broadcast system.
Again, his powers just keep changing.
They do. He is just fully realizing his powers here. He didn't know what he could do. Yeah. What's the response now that he is a part of the TV? Are they going to be able to stop him, or is he just going to be able to teleport into the nation's homes and murder at will?
It's the second one. On the bright side, this whole Detective Don thing has cleared Jonathan's name, although I'm not totally sure how that makes sense either, but whatever.
It hasn't yet, though. He's about to go to jail.
There's a news report saying that he's clear because the murders happened while he was in jail.
Yeah. But so after this tower scene, though, he has to go to jail.
No, he's clear.
No, he goes to jail first. They just skip a timeline.
Oh, fuck.
Come on, man.
Come on, Wes Craven.
To jail.
Yeah.
And then another murder happens.
The point is, his name has now been cleared.
Yeah, it's cleared because it wasn't him, right?
Okay.
That's.
But yes, Pinker is still out there, more powerful than ever, I guess. So Jonathan's going to need to come up with a new plan to take him down. He's also going to need help. So he rallies what's left of the football team to break into the Maryville Light and Power Station at midnight. While they're doing that, Jonathan will be luring Pinker to his house where a TV crew will be waiting after first diving down to the bottom of that lake to retrieve Allison's necklace. So let's say we got a three-way face-off here, Noel. What's more implausible? A dozen college students being able to break into a power station undetected and pick the lock to the central unit, some TV news crew not only showing up to Jonathan's house, but agreeing to wait around while he leaves based on nothing more than a vague, murky promise that he can deliver the killer, or Jonathan actually finding some necklace that's been sitting in the bottom of a dark lake for a week and a half. I honestly don't know the answer.
There is so much going on here.
Yeah.
The lake scene is so foggy and murky and messed up that it doesn't seem real. And then
it's not, as it turns out.
It's not to be, right? It's because Jonathan's strategy here is to head back to the dream. He needs to go get some stuff out of it, and then he needs to use that dream to pull out our killer. While he's there, though, who appears in the water beside him?
Ghost Allison, man. She shows up to help him out and hands him the necklace. And after making out with her for a few minutes, this is where we find out that it was all a dream. When the ghosts of everyone else that Pinker has killed show up and tell Jonathan he needs to wake up, as we get a shot of Horace Pinker stepping out of a TV that is apparently in Jonathan's bedroom. Inexplicably, Jonathan pushes back on the idea of finishing all this off, asking Allison,
Why should I go back? Why should I be away from you in that madness? I don't ever want to be away from you again.
You'll never be apart from me again, ever.
So good luck trying to ever date anyone else, dude. I'll be watching. Yeah. But seriously, why is he pushing back here? He's just super into Ghost Allison now. I feel like the relationship is suddenly much more important than it seemed when she was alive.
She was distracting him from making plays on the field, and now she's distracting him from living. So it's kind of a strange spot, but he does know, with the encouragement of all these ghosts in his dream, that it's time for him to get out there and try to battle and finish off his father, hopefully for the last time. He wakes up from the dream only to find the television on, like, an interesting choice. It's a preacher trying to get money, and they spent a lot of time on this. It was definitely felt like the writers or Wes Craven were trying to send a message about organized religion.
Yeah, that's not all he finds when he wakes up, too. Jonathan finds that he has that necklace because magic, I guess. But weirdly, Pinker is nowhere to be seen. So Jonathan decides to sit down and wait for him to show up, which it turns out is a big mistake because the chair he sits in is a massage chair, see? And that uses electricity, and that means Pinker is in the chair. What'd you think of these chair effects?
Oh my God.
Low point for the movie? What do you think?
I think this is the silliest activity or makeup in the entire movie.
Yeah.
The chair starts transforming and we get like
prosthetic
eyes, and then we get the arms lift up and wrap around Jonathan, and it's really bad.
Yeah, it's very silly.
Like, this had a fairly serious tone for the most part, and then there's obviously some things that are jokey and taking themselves, but like the mood that they set in terms of like a murder ghost kind of thing feels out of place with this moment in the movie, and this is the comedy they're trying to insert that I thought was just super, super bad.
Yeah, this is the one scene where I'm like, fuck, dude, they've now just gone so far into ridiculousness that even if I was still invested, I'm not saying I was, that was probably the point where I would have checked out.
So he does escape the chair, though, and then we start seeing the killer throw around electricity. There's like volts of electricity going around, and he even the killer tells Jonathan he's going to send him for a ride in his Volkswagen.
God damn.
So we get some bad comedy, and he's got him against the wall, kind of choking him out. But the necklace saves him. He's able to pull it out, and it actually scares off his father, and it scares him right back into the television. We had him come out like a poltergeist, and now he's gone back in.
That's another movie this is kind of like.
Yeah, definitely. And then Jonathan makes a little prayer onto the necklace and dives headfirst into that TV. And part of me wanted him to just smash his head on it and like knock himself out. But of course, that wasn't where this was going. He slips right into that TV after. And then we get the silliest montage that I think you could ever imagine.
Okay, yeah. This sequence here, I would like to formally apologize to the earlier chase scenes that I called ludicrous because what we get now is sheer unbridled insanity. These two are chasing each other through old sitcoms, news reports. They're going in and out of people's TVs. I think I saw the Hindenburg footage in there at one point. So I guess in all fairness, this is only the second biggest disaster we've witnessed in the course of this movie.
Oh my God. They literally are exposed to a nuclear explosion and fly with the debris through and out of the screen. They also end this montage by coming headfirst out into the living room of another slapsticky family.
Oh, yeah.
This is actually worse to me than the chair. And The Chair was egregious as fuck in terms of bad comedy, but this family room scene where they come into like a crabby old, like larger lady and her family having a night watching the television is just brutal.
Yeah, tonally it's tough. I also feel like it was a little bit like classist.
That's fair.
We've switched roles here now. I'm just doing you. Yeah. Well, of course, we know this epic chase is going to end back at Jonathan's house, and it does, with the two of them emerging from the TV, much to the temporary delight of that news crew. Pinker scares them off before turning his attention back to Jonathan, and appears ready to finish him off once and for all. But what Pinker doesn't realize is that this was all part of the plan, and Jonathan is holding a secret weapon. Nope, it's not the necklace, it's a VCR remote. Take that, Pinker, pause button.
Oh my goodness. Were you swearing at the television at this point?
I was.
Yeah. I could see your blood boiling right at this point.
Fuck,
I
man.
knew you would not be okay with this. This is like, I don't know if this is because technology has come so far that this moment feels so ludicrous. How are they going to end him, though? How is this all going to come to a conclusion?
Well, before we get to the conclusion, the explanation for this is that Pinker bought into TV. Those are Jonathan's words.
Yeah.
So he is now like bound by its rules.
Yes.
So Jonathan with the remote, he starts like fucking with him. He's rewinding and fast forwarding all over the place in a way that isn't even a little bit possible. Like making someone move faster is not that you control how they move or like where. At one point, he makes Pinker jump up and down in the bed. This is completely implausible in every way. He's not holding a fucking video game controller and Pinker's a video game character.
Yeah, that's
Rewind
fair.
it does not do that. Is that the function of those buttons? So I was like livid, just livid.
All right.
This plan, though, culminates at midnight when Rhino cuts the power to the whole town. Literally, he chops the thing with a fucking axe.
He blows up the powerhouse using the axe here, connection to our brewery.
There we go. Which kills the signals to all the TVs, which apparently, I'm saying that word a lot, which is never a good sign, will trap Pinker inside the real world or one specific TV or something. And that's basically what happens after Jonathan makes one more leap through the TV world for good measure. And that's it, man. He wanders outside to look at the stars and we get the credits. And I don't even know what to say about this. Like, I have no idea what the rules are governing the world of this movie. Are there any rules here? Help me out.
It's a struggle. I was trying to determine whether they were following the rules of like electrical currents or like how they could communicate this. He dives through the video camera, the thing taking it, exploding it in the process and trapping his father.
Is that what did it? The explosion?
Yeah, I don't know. And
no one knows.
Well, that's it. It sort of leaves it strange.
Jesus.
It was a strange little ending there.
Yeah.
It almost happened a little bit too quickly for the rest of the stuff. Like, I felt like there were other opportunities for the ending too, and it didn't quite pay off for me. And I don't know if some of that was cut in the like tons of cuts.
Many cuts. Yeah, I don't know. Well, this seems like a good time as any to transition to our ratings, because we're both talking about things that we did or didn't like. So the way we always do is rate the movie on a scale of 1 to 10 2 times. 1 to 10 for how bad it is, 1 to 10 for how enjoyable. And the goal is to find movies that are a 10 out of 10 on each scale, or what we call the Crit 20. I'm a little bit torn because I do think this is really bad in terms of the basic, like, just establishing the rules of this universe they're in, and the story and stuff doesn't totally track with me. The acting performances are like crazy over the top. Again, no one's being subtle. I don't think there's a good performance in this movie. Maybe the little girl when she's like, that's at least, because that's, you're not asking her to do a lot. It's kind of amusing. So that's some major strikes against it for me. But I had to really think about whether these effects would have been considered good at the time. And I think the answer is probably, right? We mentioned the staticky when he's the ghost version of himself. Yeah. Pretty solid. Definitely not the chair attack though. That part's not a good effect. No. But their fight through like television history was also like, they put them in the footage of like stuff. They're in the background. They're like, you see the scene happening and they're just there, kind of like the whole Back to the Future.
They were in I Love Lucy
deal. Yeah,
they were in all kinds
Leave It
of
to
stuff.
Beaver.
World War II footage. Like,
yeah, man. So I feel like that is like a net positive. So I can't give this a 10. I think I'm going to give this a 9. It was hard for me to get invested in like Jonathan coming out alive when it seemingly people would just like develop or lose powers every couple minutes whenever you needed them to for the point of the story.
The convenience of the story.
There was a lot of convenience in this story. So I have this as a 9 bad. What did you think?
I agree on several of your points, in particular about the acting and the story. There's some interesting ideas, but I don't think they hold up to time very well in terms of like the transference. I did not like the comedy or the insertion of the comedy.
Yeah, it was bad.
Like if this stayed more on the horror thriller side and avoided the comedy, I think it would have been a better movie.
I agree completely. You like the music though?
I did. I really like the music. It's good. This is part of why my bad rating is not going to be as high as yours.
Okay.
I really like the music. I thought the cinematography. I like the way Wes Craven takes different angles and shots. It's very horror specific, right? Like the kind of close-ups and the moving behind someone and the like over the shoulder shots. I like the editing between them. I like the mood and pacing of this film. Like I thought they went pretty well, despite thinking that we were going to get to the end a couple times, and despite it taking a while to get to the he becomes the shocker. He becomes shocker. I thought that there was some good craft in this. I only had it as a 7 bad.
That's fair. Yeah. I think that's
bad.
all right. Yeah. Well, we did mention that it was like breezy was the word that I used. It was a quick watch. It was light, which is nice, I guess, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
How enjoyable on that note did you find that on a scale of 1 to 10?
With the breeziness, I thought that the pace was really good. I like the mood set, particularly in the first 45 minutes, like before the electrocution and things went on.
When it's more of a straight up serial killer.
Yeah.
With the supernatural dream element, but
Yeah.
you haven't gotten too crazy with,
I like that. I like the cinematography. I do like Wes Craven. I like the music. I actually thought this wasn't a difficult watch and something that I wouldn't mind watching a second time to see if like more clues pop in for me or the things that were there. And if someone enjoys Wes Craven films or enjoys horror, I would say it's worth seeing. I had this as an 8 enjoyable.
We're actually pretty close here. So I only had it as a 7, but I agree with a lot of what you said as well. A lot of agreement today. This is just that kind of like ridiculous late 80s, early 90s horror where you can't think about it too much or you start to see the holes. But if you just want to see some dude like murdering people and different kills getting set up and like however the fuck a chair comes to life, or there's like the running through television, or like a secret moving shelf in a weird TV repair shop / museum. Like there's enough there where you're kind of just like, oh, I can't wait to see this guy gets it. No, I get him that way. Like whatever. And again, like light and breezy, not difficult to watch. I can't swear that I will necessarily watch this again, but if somebody wanted to put it on, I wouldn't say no. So I had a 7. Like some good stuff here, some entertaining stuff, and it really fits that like schlocky horror movie vibe. So
I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Wes Craven, in terms of his like list of films, how does this fit compared to some of the others? Is this close to the bottom, or is this like a middle of the road for him? What do we think?
I'd say middle of the road.
Yeah.
I it's fine. He's done better stuff for sure. He's done worse stuff. I think because we did Serpent in the Rainbow a couple years ago. I like that more than this. I enjoyed that more, even though it starred fucking the Vanilla Ice Cream of People, Bill Pullman. Yeah,
Black magic in that one too.
Yeah, voodoo.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it black magic. That's a little racist.
I was just trying to make a connection to the magic in this film.
That's fine. Well, we did not have a hard time making a connection to was this beer. Like we said, it was a slam dunk. What did you think of this one?
I really liked it.
Yeah,
I was a big fan. I was a little concerned just because there wasn't a lot of descriptions. We didn't know what kind of hops were in it. I generally like IPAs, but I find if they have something called a hazy IPA, their standard IPA tends to be more on the malty side. And this wasn't. It was really bright, really light, citrus flavors. I would guess there's some citra hops in here.
Yep.
I drank mine really fast and would definitely recommend it to anyone who enjoys an IPA.
Yeah, I'm going to surprise you here. I enjoyed this as well.
Yeah.
As much as I can enjoy an IPA, you do get a little bit of that like classic IPA taste that I don't care for, but everything else you're saying is true. It was very light. It was very, I similar to the movie, I found this like a breezy drink. For a 6.1, stronger than normal.
Wouldn't have guessed.
No, me neither, man. This was fine. And, if I had to drink an IPA, this would be probably close to the top of my list. And yeah, other good stuff from Powerhouse. Check them out if you're in the London area. I don't know if they deliver in Ontario or not, but could be worth a
check out their website for sure.
Yeah. 2 weeks from today, we are going to be taking a bit of a turn here. Staying in the 80s, but we're going to be going away from the horror and more into straight action. Ooh. The straightest action you can get. We're watching a Charles Bronson movie in 2 weeks.
Oh,
yeah, there's another Charles Bronson movie for the podcast. This one, the absolute classic. We're watching Death Wish 3.
I have no idea what it's about.
It's about Charles Bronson getting revenge on the punks who murdered someone vaguely or literally connected to him, a blood relative or an old friend.
Okay, so
someone always dies and he will avenge them.
So for millennials, this is the early version of Taken.
He is, yes. Liam Neeson is our generation's Charles Bronson. Yeah,
okay, perfect.
That's how I would phrase that.
All right,
so
I like it.
Hopefully you'll love that episode 2 weeks from now. Before then, if you haven't already, please follow us on social media at the BMB Podcast on Twitter and Instagram.
Feel free to send us emails, thebmbpodcast@gmail.com. Looking forward to a 6th season next year.
Yeah, man. Throw us some requests for that. You can help us front load that bad boy. And we thank you for joining us today for Shocker, not The Shocker.
I can't help
Shocker, I know. I understand. We hope you'll join us in 2 weeks' time for Death Wish 3. Until then, I'm Cooper.
And I'm Nolan.
And we'll see you next time on Bad Movies and Beer.
Keep putting 2 in the and 1 in the
100,000 volts of terror.